Now can you see my screen? Is it visible?
No, sir.
It is not visible?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Just a minute. Okay, now it is okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here what it is telling that about the properties of this polymer. So the polymers work or the polymers properties, it will be changed. So here what it is telling, depending on the type of polymer we are using in our dosage form, the dosage form, it will be changed. Like here what is telling, polymer properties like molecular weight, because I told you that the polymer molecular weight is completely depending on the affecting on the viscosity of that polymer. That means in certain cases, in certain dosage form, what we need, that we need the formulation should be high viscous in nature. So in such cases, we have to select a polymer which is having high molecular weight. Suppose polymer hydrophobicity, like polymer solubility. So suppose you are preparing a dosage form that is the aqueous based dosage form. In such cases, you have to select a polymer which will nature. Like this, some other properties also, there are some glass transition temperature, crystallinity, and there are so many other parameters are there which you have to consider as a properties of polymer while we are going to select a polymer for our appropriate dosage form. So now if you see the properties, what it is telling, the properties of the polymer are classified into 5 types. First one is the properties based on the molecular weight and molecular weight distribution. Second one is polymer hydrophobicity. Third one is glass transition temperature. Next is fourth one is crystallinity, and the last one is others. So now first we will see about the molecular weight and molecular distribution. Okay, so what is molecular weight? So this molecular weight term is not new to us. Already we know that what is molecular weight. The molecular weight is nominally, it is measured of the sum of the atomic weight values of the molecule, like how many atoms are there, and each and every atomic compound having atoms having one value. According to that value, we are calculating the molecular weight. So here what it is telling, so according to this molecular weight, the polymer properties, it will change. Okay, so the polymer properties, like how many numbers of atoms or how many numbers of molecules, means in a molecule how many numbers of atoms are there, and what is its weight, what is the sum of this complete weight, total weight, depending on these the properties, it will change. Next, about this molecular weight distribution. So molecular weight distribution, it is mainly essential for describing the microstructural quality of polymer. Okay, so that means your what is telling how this molecular weight is distributed depending on the type of functional group, depending on the type of atoms available in the particular molecule, and how many numbers of atoms are there in a particular molecule, and how, about its distribution. Like you are telling that the polymer properties, it is changing depending on the structure. Structure means what is saying, depending on the backbone of the structure arrangement. So here what is saying, that is calling about the molecular weight distribution. So here what is telling, there are two major factors are there which is mainly impacting on or giving impact on properties of polymer. That is, first one is molecular weight, second one is molecular weight distribution. Molecular weight distribution means that is about the arrangement of these atoms or functional group and how it is to be reactive. So this is here what is telling, the molecular weight or molecular distribution is important because it defined as a relationship between the molecular weight and molecular properties. As I told that already, that molecular weight and molecular weight distribution is directly reflecting about the properties of the polymer, how they are going to be effective in a particular dosage form, how they will be effective in a particular solvent system, and how it will be effective in a particular pH, whether it is acidic or it is basic. So depending on the properties of the polymer, depending on the functional group available in the particular polymer, that particular polymer will be reactive. So there are certain functional groups are there which are soluble in acidic medium. Certain functional groups are there which are soluble in basic medium. So the depending upon the arrangement of the molecule of the polymer properties, it will be changed. Suppose example is, we will see that in a single polymer, the arrangement of the atoms or molecules, it is in such a way that all the functional groups are water insoluble in nature. That means it is soluble in acidic medium. So now what we can design is that we have to select that particular polymer for a dosage form which you are going to target into stomach, because the stomach pH is acidic in medium. So our intention will be the polymer is soluble in acidic medium because it contains the functional group which are easily solubilized in acidic medium. So we have to select that particular polymer for a dosage form which we are going to target into stomach, because the stomach pH is acidic in medium. So that's why what is telling the molecular properties and molecular weight and weight distribution is completely reflecting about the properties of polymer. Now what it is telling, suppose example is that is polymer having very low molecular weight. Okay, so then what will be the properties? So if a polymer having low molecular weight, then it will having low mechanical strength or low mechanical properties. So here what, as I told that, depending on the molecular weight, the properties also it will be changed. Suppose a polymer having low molecular weight, so the mechanical strength will be less. If a polymer having high molecular weight, the mechanical strength will be high. So like this, solubility of the polymer, what it is telling, it decrease with increase in the molecular weight. That means what it is telling, the molecular weight is higher, the solubility is lower. Why? Because when the molecular weight is higher, it is reflecting that there are so many atoms are arranged in a single molecule by the help of different bond, and the bond maybe there is a very strength, and it is maybe it is arranged in a cross-link manner. So that's why what is telling, it is somewhat difficult to break the bond in between the two atoms, by which the particular polymer it will not be soluble in a solvent system. So that's why what is telling, if a higher molecular weight polymer is there, then the solubility will be less. If low molecular weight polymer it is there, then the solubility will be high. So that's why what is telling, the molecular weight and the molecular weight distribution having major impact on the polymer. Major impact means what it is telling. Suppose I am preparing a dosage form which I am targeting into intestine. Okay, so in the intestine, as we know that each and everything, whatever you are going to take it orally. So first of all, initially it will go to stomach, and after stomach, in the stomach, gastric empty time or gastric residence time it is having there. That means how much time a food it will be remain in the stomach, that is called as the gastric residence time. So that depend upon the type of food we have used, nominally what we used to tell that every 2 hours that gastric emptying process used to take place. So that means whatever the food it is available or whatever the materials or substance it is available in the stomach, it goes to the intestine. So now if you are targeting a dosage from to intestine, not to stomach, then what you have to do? You have to select a polymer which is insoluble in acidic medium and it should be soluble in basic medium, because the pH of the stomach is acidic and the pH of the intestine is basic. So you have to select a polymer which will be insoluble in acidic medium and it should be soluble in basic medium, by which if any tablet will design and will take it orally, so what will happen, it will go to stomach, but it will remain in the stomach for 2 hours or 1.5 hours, the desired time, without undissolved, without affecting the primary layer which is given by the polymer. It will not be affected or it will not be break. So as usual, the dosage form it will be remain in the stomach. Then after that, whenever the gastric emptying process will start and this formulation it will move to intestine, so that time what will happen, the depending upon the solubility of the polymer as you have selected, that is it is soluble in basic medium. So whenever it is going to intestine, so intestine is basic in medium, so when this tablet or the outer layer of the tablet will come in contact with the basic medium, automatically it will break down or it will be rupture, the cover will be ruptured, by which slowly the drug it will release from the dosage form and it will be targeting to intestine. So in such cases, what is telling, whenever the proper designing of dosage form is more important, or we can be, it will be more effective when we are going to select a appropriate polymer for this. So the appropriate polymer, it is telling the polymer's mechanical strength, polymer molecular solubility. These are the major factors or major parameters which we have to consider during the time of selection of polymer for a particular dosage form. Like simple example, I'll tell that I'm telling about the mechanical properties. So low mechanical properties or high molecular properties. So low mechanical properties, it is indicating that the bond present in between the atoms are somewhat weaker, by which it can be easily breakable, so there is having less mechanical strength. The bond which is having higher strength or it will not be easily breakable, then it is having high mechanical strength. So that's why what is telling the properties, molecular weight and molecular weight distribution is more important to be considered. How the polymer it will be reactive to a particular substance, how a polymer to be solubilized in a particular solvent system. Depending on this, the dosage form will be designed. This is the major factor which is giving impact on the selection of polymer on a particular dosage form. That is the first criteria of first properties, that is molecular weight and molecular weight distribution. Now, second parameter what it is telling, or second property is what it is telling, that is polymer hydrophobicity. Hydrophobicity means what is telling, that is about nothing but about the polymer affinity towards its environment. That environment may be it is hydrophobic in nature, the environment may be it is hydrophilic in nature, whatever it is may be. So depending on the type of polymer, or depending on the solubility, depending on the properties of the polymer, it will also having impact on the dosage form. Like example are there, certain polymers are there, these are insoluble in water or they are soluble in organic solvent. Certain polymers are there which are soluble in water, insoluble in organic solvent. Certain polymers are there which are having capacity to absorb water, but it will not be completely dissolved in the particular solvent system. But again, certain polymers are there existing which are freely or easily soluble in the aqueous solvent system. So that's why what is telling, depending on the solubility of the polymer also, it is also having impact on the dosage form. So now coming to this second parameter, that is about the solubility. So what it is telling, according to the nature of polymer water interaction, because when we are telling that the polymer is soluble in water, it is insoluble in water, it is absorbing in water, it is having absorbing properties within the water. So there is completely depending on the interaction between the polymer and water. So that's why what is telling, depending on the interaction, polymer are broadly classified into four types. These are, first one is hydrophobic in nature, or that is called as hydrophobic polymer. Second one is hydrophilic polymer. Third one is water soluble polymer, and the last one is hydrogels. I think all of you have idea about these properties because already you have completed the different type of base what are used in the preparation of suppositories. If you see, hydrophobic means water insoluble, hydrophilic means water soluble, like, and water soluble, and last one is hydrogel. So there is some differences there between this hydrophilic polymer and water soluble polymer that I will explain. So there are mainly it is broadly classified into four types based on the polymer and water interactions. Now let's see one by one. So first one is hydrophobic polymer. So hydrophobic polymer means what is telling, that is clearly indicating that these are insoluble in water. So that's why what is telling, it is having water impermeable properties. So it cannot easily permeate, or water cannot easily permeate through this polymer. That's why it is called as water impermeable in nature. Next, it has water absorption properties less than 5%. That means the hydrophobic polymer, what is telling, is because it is not solubilizing, it is not in permeability is not there. So that's why it has a capacity to absorb water minimum of means 5, not more than 5. Maximum 5% of water it can absorb. Next, if we'll go to the structural arrangement of this hydrophobic, because I told you that the properties of the polymer, it will be changed depending on the molecular weight and molecular distribution. So here what it is telling, the chain is very stiff, means very mechanical strength is high. High degree of crystallinity. Crystallinity means that is about the arrangement. Next, about the presence of high, all of you please mute yourself. All of you
mute
please
kar.
mute yourself.
Mute
Angsuman.
kar. mute kar.
Okay, so now here what it is telling, that is about the hydrophobic polymer. So the majority difference you can see, it is impermeable in nature, it is having very water absorption properties is very less than 5%. The chain is very stiff, that means it is where the bond lies in between the two atoms are very strong. It is having high degree of crystallinity, that means the molecular arrangement. Then it is having containing high amount of hydrophobic functional groups. So that's why it is calling as a water insoluble in nature. Now coming to this hydrophilic polymer. So hydrophilic polymer, what is telling, the properties, if you go to compare, hydrophobic is water impermeable in nature, here it is water permeable in nature. Next, second one is it is having water absorption properties. That too, it has the capacity to absorb water more than 5%. So in case of hydrophobic, it has the capacity to absorb water less than 5%. So there is a difference between this hydrophobic and hydrophilic polymer. Now coming to the structural arrangement, what it is telling, the chain flexibility is high. Here the difference, what I told, the chain is stiffness is high, but here flexibility is high. We can easily rearrange it, we can easily break it, so that's why it will be easily solubilized. So absence of crystallinity, that means amorphous in nature. As you know that the compounds or powders are divided into two types, crystalline in nature and amorphous in nature. So here what is telling, the crystallinity is absence. And here what is telling, as because it contains some hydrophilic functional group like amino group, carboxyl group or hydroxyl group. So that's why it is water soluble in nature, or it is having more water absorption properties. So there is a basic difference between this hydrophobic polymer and hydrophilic polymer, the classification based on the water and solvent interaction, sorry, water and polymer interaction. Now coming to this third one, that is about the water soluble properties. So now the question is coming there, what is the basic difference between this hydrophilic polymer and water soluble polymer? So the hydrophilic and water soluble, you can see here, hydrophilic, it is telling that it is having water absorption properties that is more than 5%. But in case of water soluble polymer, it is telling that it is freely soluble in water. It is freely soluble in water. That means here indicating that hydrophilic polymer and water soluble polymer, both the cases, what is telling that they are solubilized, but here hydrophilic polymers, after solubilizing, the viscosity of that particular solvent system will be somewhat higher in case of hydrophilic polymer than the water soluble polymer. So here what is telling, the freely water soluble, that may be in the presence of temperature or without the temperature, but that particular polymer is freely soluble in water. In certain cases, certain polymers are there which are soluble in a particular solvent system by the presence of heat or in the application of heat. Like example is polyvinyl alcohol. So polyvinyl alcohol is a polymer which is insoluble in water when you are going to trying to solubilize this particular polyvinyl alcohol in the water without the heat, in the cooled condition. But in that same condition, if you will add some amount of heat or you will apply some amount of heat, easily or freely this polyvinyl alcohol, it will be solubilized. And once the temperature, it will be cooled down of the solvent, then again what we can see, the viscosity, it will be higher in rain, high. So that's why that is called as the water soluble polymer. That means it is freely soluble in water. That means it is not having any kind of absorption properties. Easily it will be break down, the bonds lies in between these two atoms, or in between the atoms arrangement or the chain arrangement, it will be easily breakable or ruptured by the solvent which is going to be solubilized, and it will be freely miscible. That is about the water soluble polymer. Now the fourth one is calling as a hydrogels. What is this hydrogels? Hydrogels are a, we can tell that these are also one of the example of hydrophilic polymer or water soluble polymer, we can tell. Why? Because there are certain category of polymers are there which having the capacity to absorb more amount of water. That means here what is telling, they can absorb water that to about the double their amount. Suppose 1 gram of polymer I am taking, that 1 gram of polymer having the capacity to absorb more than 1 gram of water. That is called as the hydrogel polymer. That means these are called as the these are normally arranged by covalent bond, or it is called as cross-linked polymer. As I told you that in the classification of polymer, these hydrogels are nominally known as a cross-linked polymer which are arranged by covalent bond, and it is having very high water absorption properties. So due to its having high water absorption properties, what will happen? They will absorb the water and they will start swelling. So when they will start swelling, they will convert into gel. Okay, in case of hydrophilic polymer or water soluble polymer, they will also increase the viscosity, but not more than hydrogels, because hydrogels, they will absorb the water and they will convert into gel form. But in case of water soluble polymer or in case of hydrophilic polymer, they will not convert into gel form. They will be converting to, they will be remain in the form of solution, but in the high viscous. So there is a basic difference between this hydrosoluble polymer or hydrophilic polymer and hydrogels. So that is the basic difference. So here, as because it is a cross-linked polymer, so as you can, as I told you previously, the cross-linked polymer means these are mainly arranged in a branch wise or in such a manner that the functional groups are arranged in a different unit, I mean different directions they have arrangements are there. So that's why it is called as hydrogels. So the basic difference we can tell that hydrogels having the capacity to absorb water and they will convert it to gel form. But in case of hydrophilic, it will be absorbing capacity is there, but it will not convert into gel form, just it will increase the viscosity. But again, in case of water soluble polymer, it is having the capacity to break down himself in the water, by which it will be freely soluble into the water. That is the basic difference between this classification of polymer depending on the polymer water interaction. There is hydrophobic polymer, hydrophilic polymer, water soluble polymer, and hydrogels. Now, after this, now coming to this second one is about the glass transition temperature. So anyone having idea about this glass transition temperature, please unmute yourself and tell. Anyone having idea about glass transition temperature? Anshuman. Are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir.
So okay, do you have any idea about this glass transition temperature?
আর যেমন ওই কোন গাছের যেমন ওই রেজিন যেগুলো হয় হিট দিলে একটা ট্রান্সপারেন্ট স্টেটে চলে আসে, ওইটাই কি স্যার গ্লাস ট্রানজিশন স্টেট?
Almost all same, but here what it is telling, glass transition temperature means like how we are making the glass. So glass are nominally in the form of solid, right? So when this solid glass or solid particles or these polymers, by using the polymers you are when you are going to use this glass, so these polymers initial state is solid. For the raw material, whatever they used for this preparation of glass, raw materials are in the form of solid. So when we are applying the heat, so what will happen, they are converting into a somewhat transition will be there. So that transition phase is called as the glass transition temperature. So now coming to this slide, you can see here at low temperature all the amorphous polymer exist in a glassy state. Okay, and while in glassy state the polymer are characterized by their hardness, stiffness, and brittleness. So nominally the glass are nominally, when you are seeing the glass or when you are going to evaluate a glass physically, so what are the things you are seeing? About its hardness, about its stiffness, about its transparency, about its texture, all these things nominally we are going to see. So these properties can be observed physically whenever the temperature is low. Okay, when the temperature is raised, when this glass temperature will going to become higher, so what will happen, the polymer available in this glass, it will be undergo some transition will be there. So what kind of transition? So the transition what is telling, the change of glass to a rubber elastomer. That means whenever the temperature will increase, finally what you will see, it will start melting. Okay, so when it will start melting and it will converting into a elastomer phase, that like somewhat elastic properties it will come, that is called as the glass transition temperature. Due to raise in the temperature, when the glass physical properties, it will change from a hardness or stiffness to the rubber like elastomer properties or flexible plastic, that is called as the glass transition temperature. And how this glass transition temperature is useful for us for a preparation of control release dosage form, now I will see. So for a designing of a control release formulation, you have to see that during the preparation of control release dosage form, what was the glass transition temperature for a particular polymer what we have selected for our formulation, because depending on the glass transition temperature, the properties of this polymer it will be changed. So what are the major effects are there of this glass transition temperature in the polymer? So the glass transition temperature, how it is affecting. So now we'll see the polymer, suppose having some glass transition temperature. So glass transition temperature means, in short or in conclusion, in one word, if I want to say that the temperature at which the glass start melting or the glass transition is going on from the solid to semi-solid or solid to rubber-like nature, that is called as a glass transition temperature. So here what is telling, so how it is giving impact on the your control release dosage form. So here what is, due to this formation, the polymer chain it will be changed. So due to this polymer change will be there. So due to this formation of strong intermolecular attraction, so this formation of intermolecular attraction the solubility will properties it will be changed, the properties of like molecular arrangement, molecular distribution also it will be changed, by which it is giving directly impact on the control release dosage form. So that is the main important parameter, that is glass transition temperature you have to see. That means suppose the example polymer A I have selected, and this glass transition temperature for polymer A is 60 degrees centigrade. Okay, so I have to see during the preparation of dosage form, what is the temperature I am maintaining, whether the temperature I am maintaining more than 60 degrees centigrade or it is less than 60 degrees centigrade. So if it is less than 60 degrees centigrade, then what I can see predict that the polymer is not going to meet the glass transition temperature. So that means the changes will not be there, or maybe it will not giving any kind of impact. The initial properties it will be maintained as usual. But in some cases, whenever we need that the glass transition temperature is to be high, by which the properties of the polymer it will be changed, and it will help us to change the solubility of the polymer, by which it will control the release rate of drug from the dosage form. Suppose example I will tell that during the preparation of dosage form, the temperature of the method I have maintained is 70 degree. So the temperature during the preparation of solid dosage form is 70 degree. The glass transition temperature for the particular polymer A is 60 degrees centigrade. So that means it is indicating that during this manufacturing cycle, definitely the polymer it came under the glass transition temperature. So due to this glass transition temperature, definitely the formation or the rearrangement of the molecular chain it will be there. So due to this, what will happen? We can predict that the formation of bond it will be more elastic and more strong, due to which the water or the solvent system it cannot be easily penetrate into the polymer, or it cannot be easily break the polymer, by which you can tell that the drug or the dosage form it will give a control release dosage form. That means it will control the drug release from the dosage form to a external environment. That's why glass transition temperature is more important. Glass transition temperature means, in a single sentence you just remember that that is the temperature at which the polymer undergo transition will be takes place from a solid or hardness properties to rubbery, elastomer or flexible properties. That is called as the glass transition properties. Now, next one is crystallinity. So crystallinity, what it is telling, that is nothing but about the molecular arrangement or structural arrangement, which is giving that like we know that amorphous in nature, powders are nominally what you used to tell that amorphous in nature, crystalline in nature. Depending on this, amorphous are more soluble in nature, crystallines are less soluble in nature. Why the crystalline powders are less soluble in nature? Because due to this, their arrangements. Because of this arrangement, what is telling that the permeability of solvent through this arrangement or through this bond is very less. So due to this permeability, here what is telling that the solubility will be very less, because of it is unable to penetrate, by which it is unable to break the bond. Due to inability of the breaking of the bond or the rupture of the bond, it will not be making it solubilized. So here same thing it is also discussed here. So crystallinity is nothing but about the polymer that have regular structure, that able to achieve a regular packing of chain and crystallize. That means there is nothing but about the proper arrangement of structural arrangement you are going to see it. So crystallization result in a regular packing of molecule or ions into a three-dimensional lattice. So in a amorphous means what is telling, the arrangement is randomly arranged there. Okay, that means we cannot predict anything. But here what is telling, the crystallization means it is arranged in three-dimensional way. Like we are seeing that three-dimensional picture, three-dimensional photo we are seeing. So like this, the arrangement of the structure, it is in a three-dimensional nature. So due to which the bond which are established between these atoms, it cannot be easily penetrated by the solvent. So here what is telling, enhancement of crystallinity result in decrease in polymer permeability. So here what is telling, if you are going to increase the crystallinity, so if you are going to increase the crystallinity, so definitely what will happen, the permeability of solvent through this bond, it will be very less. So that's which what it can tell that solubility also it will decrease. So here what is telling, the crystalline regions are impermeable to water. Same thing already I discussed. So it is making it impermeable to water, so that the rate of polymer hydrolysis in crystalline region is significantly reduced. So how it will be make solubilized normally the solvent is during this hydrolysis process only it will be breakdown, it will be reactive in nature. Due to this interaction, it will be solubilized. So that's why what is telling it will be less soluble in nature. Okay, so this is all about the properties of polymer. Now the last part is about the miscellaneous or others. So apart from this about the solubility, about the molecular weight and crystallinity, there are certain other parameters also you have to observe during the time of your selection of polymer for a particular dosage form. These are first one is viscosity. So as I told you that depending on the type of polymer you are going to select it, that may be a hydrophilic polymer, or maybe water soluble polymer or hydrogel polymers. So after solubilization or when it come in contact with a particular solvent system, it will be changing the viscosity of a particular solvent system. So here what is telling, you can see here the dissolved macromolecules have ability to build up a relative viscosity in their solution. That means the polymer having their capacity depending on the interaction between the water and polymer, the viscosity will be exist, or it will be, they can create or they can build a viscosity. Next one is solubility. Solubility means what is telling, they depend on the interaction. What will happen, it will be decrease the viscosity and it will be break down. They themselves, the particular polymer, they themselves, they will break down in the particular solvent system and they will make it solubilized. In certain cases, the polymers, they used to mix with each other to form a complex. Okay, so for example is that polyacidic mixture and polyglycos. That means while we are selecting a polymer, what we are seeing that, or any kind of additives you are going to select for a particular dosage form, what you used to do that this should be non-reactive in nature. So we have to see that the properties of the polymer. Suppose you are selecting two polymers in a single dosage form, and these two polymers are having properties that they are reactive in nature. So due to this reaction, polymer A and polymer B, they will form a complex that is AB. So such kind of properties may impact on the dosage form. So that's why such kind of polymer we should not select. So you have to select the polymer in such, suppose you are selecting two variety of polymer in a single dosage form, then you have to select a non-reactive polymer which will not having the chances to form a complex. But in certain cases also, we are using this demerit or these reactive properties or complexing properties as a benefit also, like preparation of alginate beads. Okay, so there are two things, sodium alginate and calcium, they are going to mix with each other. Due to this reaction, the alginate beads are going to form it. So that is called as a complex type. Interaction of polymer and solvent. So there are certain kind of interaction, because I told you that depending on the interaction of polymer and solvent, the properties of the reflection is depending on whether it is hydrophobic in nature or hydrophilic in nature, water soluble in nature, or hydrogels are nature. So depending on this, certain are solubilizing in nature, certain are they will swell and they will form a hydrogels. So that interaction also you have to be careful. Next is polymer dissolution, how it will be solubilizing and how the polymer is going to break down into in a particular solvent system, by which it will be easy to form a solution. In certain cases, what you used to do, this solubilized polymer you used to select for a preparation of microsphere like this. What will do? First of all, we will solubilize the polymer, then followed by the solvent it will be evaporated, by which a polymer and drug mixture will be formed, which will maybe a type of matrix type or reservoir type. Such kind of polymer dissolution also you are going to use it. Next, last one is polymer erosion. Polymer erosion means degradation of polymer, like how it is breaking down, what is the phenomena or physical phenomena, how the bonds are rupturing, and how the erosion is takes place, by which the polymer is going to be dissolution in a particular solvent system, or how the drug is going out from the dosage form through diffusion process. Okay, so this all about the properties of polymer, what it is necessary mostly to select a polymer for a selection of a dosage form. Like these are the major parameters or properties you have to be observed, or you have to study in detail before going to select a polymer for our dosage form. Okay, so is it clear? All of you please unmute yourself. All of you please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for today this is the part only we will see. Next class we will see the remaining part. Okay, so up to
Okay,
now,
sir.
if you see, all of you please see your chat box. Already I have shared the attendance link. Okay, so here you can see that up to now, what are the things we've discussed, like about the definition, like molecular arrangement, about the classification of polymer, and about the ideal properties of the polymer, what you have to necessary. Okay, these are the major parameters you have to see while you are going to designing a dosage form or designing a control release drug dosage form, because the polymer having major role in the dosage form, because depending on the type of polymer you're going to select it, the dosage form properties it will be changed. I think already madam started this control release drug delivery system, right? Am I right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So in that, if you'll see, there are so many variety of control release dosage forms are there. Means under the control release drug delivery system, there are so many subcategories are there. Under single umbrella, so many different type of dose, different type of formulations are there. For each and every type of formulation or dosage form, different properties or different category of polymers are necessary. So that's why it is essential to see or to know the science behind the polymer, by which it will be helpful for us to select a appropriate polymer for our dosage form. Yes or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I can see the total number of participants are here only 77.